Okay, so let's take a look at what are the social media and these developments. So the first one we're going to look at is what is social media, how did it grow, and how can we define it. And the picture you see here in the background, and I'll put it on the screen a bit bigger, is actually from a game called Ingress, and it's an augmented reality game. We'll go and talk a bit more about augmented reality in a later lecture, but essentially it allows you to use mobile technology to go around the world and explore things. So your mobile phone actually lays on a top on the physical world. And you might not know Ingress, but you might know Pokemon Go, or you might know Harry Potter's Wizard United, if I'm not mistaken. And those are actually built on the same technology. What I find fascinating is that kind of augmented reality is a mix between social media, physical world, digital world, and it actually blurs the lines a lot. Because you connect with people that might be remote through the chat options. You might meet those people physically in the same place, or you could, and it mixes the digital and the real world. So that's the reason I put that picture in here. Before we go any further, let's do a short social media bingo. So here I've put some icons on a sheet of a few of the most popular social media platforms or Web 2.0 technologies that are used widely. And I'll give you a minute to take a look at those and see if you can determine which icon and which name should be put next to that icon. And actually, I don't have to give you a minute since I'm broadcasting this online. If you want to think about it longer, just pause the video and then you have some more time to think about it. Because here are the answers. And you might recognize a few depending on where you live and when you're watching this video. Some of them you might recognize. I'm sure a lot of you, of course, know Facebook, WhatsApp, and YouTube, and Twitter. And some of them are you might not know because they're from different zones around the world, specifically Chinese ones like QQ, for example. And Sina Weibo. So my next question in this small quiz would be, if I would ask you to rank them, the top 15 of these, starting at the top left of the screen, to the then down the column, then the next column top to bottom, then the right column top to bottom. Rank them in the number of active users that they have. So start with the ones that have most active users at the top left and go down, then the middle column top to bottom, right column top to bottom. And again, I'll give you a minute to think about it, but you can pause the video if you need more time. Okay, ready? So here are the results. And it's probably no surprise to you that Facebook has a lot of users there. Sorry. So Facebook has a lot of users, active users in YouTube, WhatsApp, Facebook, and so on. So you can read the list and you will actually see that WeChat, a very popular Chinese instant messaging application, also has a lot of active users. And in fact, if you take a closer look at this, you will see that Facebook, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger have a lot. Of course, there's a lot of overlap, but between them, they have a lot of active users. And of course, you realize that Facebook, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and then Instagram is owned by the same company, Facebook. So that gives you an idea, even though probably a large percentage of these users overlap, how well integrated, how active, how big Facebook is in the social media and instant messaging app. Well, if you want to see the full list as of July 2019, you can click on the link. I'll share the slides later. Now, of course, you know these platforms, or you might know some of them, and some of them you know as instant messaging, some of you know as social media. But the key thing here is this Web 2.0 technology that allows you to add content to the network and retrieve content from other people. And that exists in many forms. It doesn't only have to be written text or videos and only broadcasting and collecting. Something that has become very popular, at least in my workplace, is HouseParty, which is an app that allows you to play games together. And especially in these times, we use those kind of technologies to not only exchange information, but most of all, maintain a connection and communicate with each other. So with HouseParty, for example, you can form a group, you can start playing Pictionary, you can do quizzes together, you can chat, and so on. So you might say that, is that social media? Well, if you look at the definition we'll come across later, it allows you to connect with people, to exchange information, even if though you don't have a prior relationship with these people, you can find and you can connect online. So social media, when we talk about it, we don't only mean those platforms that are really, named as social media, but you can look at many different platforms that offer that facility. And even Netflix has now this social media aspect to it. You can do a digital Netflix party that has a chat running alongside a video or a movie you're watching with your friends. So you can invite people to your party, you can play the video or the movie or the show, and it will play at the same time for all the guests. And so you can chat about what you see and add your opinion about it. So again, that's also a form of social media. It also fits with this online collaboration because now we're doing something remote but distant, so remote, real-time remote working. But it also has a strong social media component because you can make connections and you can add people you don't per se work with or establish prior relationships with. So what is social media then? How can we define it? Well, there's many definitions and this is just one, but mainly we look here at 4 components. The technology behind it, the things that people can do on the platform, what they facilitate, the service they provide, and how they work with content. So if we go down and drill down on these topics a little bit, first of all, social media, as we mentioned in the beginning, are Web 2.0 technologies, which means that these technologies do not only allow you to consume or retrieve information or content, but also allows you to add content. And it even allows you to add social media. You can add this content anywhere. You don't have to have a special PC. You don't have to, log in, do programming. It's very a low threshold to contribute content, and we'll come back to that later why that's important. So essentially, part of it, the social media is this Web 2.0 technology as an enabler. The second thing is that social media also allows you to create a profile. It's not just a customer record or you're not just an employee with a specific role. It allows you to really create a identity, which could be similar to your real world identity, or it could be a new online identity. But in any case, that identity is stored and maintained by the platform provider or the company behind it. So these platforms, they're really an identity about who you are and what you do. Not only the profile information you fill in, but it is everything you do in the platform builds your profile. The people you have a connection with, the things you like, the things you share online, where you click, and so on. So all of that information creates a profile and an identity in that environment about who you are. So that digital identity, that really is a key element of social media, and whether that's Instagram or Twitter and so on. And so put here a map underneath. This is from one of my favorite websites, XKCD, that has mapped out the number of users as a map, and shows how big the countries will be according to the users. And this is of course an older one, but it's still fun to look at how, if you look at communities and project them on a map, what they would look like. Now, the third component about social media is that it allows you to develop an online network. I talked about this before in the introduction. Social media, in contrast to some other tools where you have, you either know the employees, you want to connect with, social media allows you to develop a network. You can either establish a connection with somebody you already know, or you can establish connections with somebody you don't know and create new contacts. And then again, from these new contacts, you can derive other contacts. So social media is not just a connection between people who already have a prior connection, but really building a network. So this networking is an aspect as well. And that could take the form on LinkedIn of connections, or on Twitter as followers, or on Facebook as friends. In any case, communities that are formed, they establish similar social norms and cultures. So what is acceptable, and how they perceive things, like-minded people, they will find and connect each other. And if a new community is formed, a new network is formed, they will also slowly start developing these norms that is about things they like and how they perceive things. So to give you an example of something that has transitioned from a real-world community to a digital one is, for example, students at Tilburg University. They were stuck at home because the university closed, the campus was closed, and they found a way to connect with each other and connected with students from other universities to start translating information from the Dutch news agencies to other languages to help foreign students understand what was going on. And that started, of course, with students who knew each other, but then because of social media, other students could connect and could grow and link in, and so that community started growing online. So the key thing here is that these have people with similar social norms. Either they have already similar social norms, or they start developing similar social norms online. And then the last key part about social media is the user-generated content. So content is a crucial part of social media because it is the reason people use it and come to the platform. That social media content could be relevant or interesting to people because of the valuable insights, but also just because it's fun. And the interesting part is it's not only the fact that there is content for people to be on the platform, but also for people the ability to share their own content on the platform. So it allows people to add various types of their content as well. So an incentive is not only to consume content, but actually it drives people to the platform because they have a place to share their content. So you will see here the photo of Hillary Clinton on the airport arriving. I think it's on the airport. And all the people, or a rally, I think. People were actually interested, very welcome to Hillary, but you see everybody turn around to take a selfie because the incentive to create content and to share it on the platform is very high here. And not only that incentive, technologies have actually also lowered the threshold because you don't have to write, especially on Instagram, you don't have to write a full story. You can just, with a mobile phone these days, you can create content very quickly. You can just take a selfie, take a picture, and you have content to share. So the incentive is high and the technology has lowered the threshold. So that has been an accelerator of the content, adding content to social media, and that's there. So that's why they say it is the lifeblood of social media, this thing. So how do you successfully do it? Well, how do you use social media in reaching your objectives and in establishing an information system and manage information? We already mentioned this in the previous lecture, but information systems, you can break it down into 4 components. One is the data, which would be the content of social media. So this is the stuff that we're transmitting. Then there is the technology, the hardware, the software, the infrastructure, the networks. So these are the platforms, the Web 2.0 technologies that allow people to share the content or create the content. But on the other hand, we have these aspects. There is people, and there's organization. So with organization, we don't only mean like a firm or something, but also these communities. So for an organization, that means you have to think about which communities you want to create or you want to belong to. What are the processes you're using? And then, of course, they're the people you need to connect with. So you could use this framework to describe social media, but we can also take the other look at it. If we are an organization and we want to connect on social media, how would we fill in all those 4 points? Well, the first one is to think about the technology. And actually, that's an easy one. Nowadays, you can use any kind of device anywhere in the world to contribute information online. Even on flights, although I can tell you, taking out 2 laptops on the flight is something that's frowned upon or makes makes people nervous on the flight. Could go either way. But in any case, there's a lot of devices that allow you to reach anyone, connect anyone, and share content. Then the next step for an organization is, okay, so technology is not the problem here. The next thing is the information and the content. So the question here is, what is it you would like to gain or add to social media? The content. And if you talk about an organization or you talk about reaching your objectives, one of them would be, for example, connecting with customers. And we will talk more about this in our customer relationship management lecture. So if you look at that part, there is, you could say, well, I want to know, the content I want to get is, who is my customer? And if you start looking at social media, there's a lot of things you can get to know your customer or your citizens in your municipality, or students at your university, or even victims in a crisis. If you look at social media, you can think about all these things. What do people like? Who do they know? Where are they? What is their interests? And so on. And I give you a moment. You can look at this picture and you can already start mapping out where you could find this information. This is how I mapped it. And there's many different ways of mapping it. But you could look at what kind of videos do people watch on YouTube. You can look at Facebook, what connections they have. You could look at the updates they have on Instagram. You could look at Amazon, what things they buy. Google Maps knows where you are. So using these platforms, there's a lot of data available, some even public, right? If you want to know who the friends are of someone, you can go on Facebook. You can look at the status updates on Instagram. So that information is there. So the key thing for you to reach your objectives is to think about what kind of information would you like to retrieve, what is it you're after, and that should link to decisions you're trying to make as an organization. What is the decision? What information do you need? Where could I find it? And then the next step is to think about the people. This is from Twitter in Dutch, where the guy says, I could not go out to dance with my friends yesterday, which we usually do on a Saturday, so we did it through WhatsApp. And actually they organized a digital dance party. The key thing here is that social media allows people, it is about people. It's not just a marketing platform or something to retrieve data from. It is something that people, is, as we said before, part of their identity. So you want to make sure that you connect with people there and look at their interests and their intrinsic motivations and link up with them. And if that's dancing, that's apparently something they want to do. So here they go, dancing on their Saturday evening at home. So thinking about who are the people I'm connecting with, what are their values, how do we connect with them, is a key thing about you integrating social media. Not just putting marketing or just broadcasting your message, but really understanding that it is an extension of people. And that brings me to the last point that is, always in our 4 points about technology, content, people, and then the last one is organization. So how do we fit that within our organization? Because if there's a discrepancy between who you are as an organization, what you can do, and your processes and social media, it's going to be very hard, which probably means you have to change processes. So one of the examples I always like to show is KLM. KLM is very active on social media, but they use it as an extension of who they are as a company. Service-minded, service-oriented, and that extends to social media where they connect with their customers. So KLM doesn't only use social media to broadcast their marketing, but they're actually asking people, making flight reservations, changing seats, and so on. So you might know this as web care. So using social media, connecting to your customers, understanding what they want, and using it as an extension, delivering your service through this platform by connecting people who are in your community or form a new community, which in case of KLM are passengers or potential passengers. So here, the success story is here that they have the technology, which is, easily come by these days. They have the content, which is, passenger information, but flights and so on. They have the connection. They know the people. They know their customers. They know who they want to reach out to. And finally, most importantly, they have their organization oriented. If you ask something on Twitter to KLM, they will know what to do with it. They have a person who knows about baggage handling in the webcare team, or they can contact somebody in baggage handling. So it's integrated in the organization and the processes, not a separate part as part of a marketing department, which makes gives a value for people on the platform, an incentive to connect with KLM.